Good morning. Well, here we are. What are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? Let's talk about control because it's everywhere. And I'm not just talking about controlling your own emotions, controlling your own lifestyle, life, things that happen in a day, how you drive. I mean, all the stuff that we need to be concerned with controlling because it's about making it from one point to the next and living life. I'm talking about unreasonable control, i.e., the things that we can try to control that are not within the boundaries of our control, like, other people. And I heard somebody reframe the serenity prayer, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the person I can, and the wisdom to know that person is me. So I thought that was pretty cute. And even if you're not into the serenity prayer, it's still pretty cute. So here's the thing, you probably don't even think you're trying to control people. You actually have motives that are like, well, I mean, they won't get it if I don't tell them, or, well, he needs to know this, or, well, it's my obligation, my responsibility to let this person know the right thing to do. And there are good motives behind all that stuff, but what I'm talking about is this like insidious energy that actually is tapped into a sort of self-righteousness or ulterior motive that says, you know better, you have the answers, you're the only one taking the time to think things through, and that you, in fact, should bestow your knowledge and your wisdom upon the world, even if you're not being asked. And I would just like to reframe that, and I would like to look at it a little bit differently. And believe me, I am an original control freak who would tell people the right thing to do, insert my opinion when not asked, and cause a lot of my own problems because people really don't like that. Now, guidance and direction are different than, unsolicited advice. And guidance and direction are actually more nonverbal and more about your demonstration and speaking your mind when you're asked, as opposed to like unsolicited advice and giving people opinions or letting people know things because you think it's for their greater good. That type of unsolicited opinion giving or advice can actually be critical, and it could actually present this notion to the person on the receiving end that they're not okay where they are. And, as we live in this world where people seem to be really, really hypersensitive to how they're interacting with other people, and unfortunately also beyond sensitive in an incapacitating way around things that other people do and say, I think it behooves us to be conscious of how we're talking to other people and how it's being received. And it also behooves us to step back and remember that whatever anybody says is none of our business. But if I'm going to be that person and be reminded to myself when I hear things that I don't always want to hear, then I also need to be the person who needs to think about how I'm saying what I'm saying and whether or not the other person wants to hear it, right? Because I'm not an authority, I'm not an expert. Yeah, I'm a certified life coach. And you know what that means? That means I've studied spirituality. That means I've studied listening techniques. It means I've had my own life experience and incorporated it into how to progress, how to develop personally, professionally, etc., in ways that have helped and expanded my life and in ways that I could teach other people to do the same. So I think that that's where I want to land, and I think that that's where I want to be, because as I'm moving through the world this morning and I'm looking around and I'm looking at these people who, there's this certain sort of energy, whether it's in the supermarket or wherever, where people are really out of it and kind of running through the place and not paying attention. And it's this sort of underlying angst that I just more and more and more have become cognizant of, and more and more don't want to become accustomed to, right? We need a little more vibration, we need a little more love, we need a little more tempo, we need a little more acceptance, but we also need a little more of what I would call mind your own fucking business. Because Who doesn't need a little more mind your own fucking business? You know what I mean? I don't know if that's a New Yorker in me, but I certainly think it's called for that. Like, I need to, when I go to open my mouth to say something, think about whether or not I'm minding my business and whether or not I'm clear or steeped in the wisdom that the person that I need to change is me. So, hopefully, this has been helpful on unreasonable control. So, when you want to control something, reason it out, talk about it to somebody else before the person you want to control, pause a little bit, and then say your prayer. All right. Have a nice day, everybody.